Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 68 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, what is going on?
I'm hanging, literally.
Literally hanging. Got some medical issues you're working through.
Got a little double hernia action going on. But hey, that's all good.
You're a trooper. You're a trooper, man.
Yeah. Super trooper.
He's already pulled over. He can't pull over any farther.
That's right.
All right, let's get into our new Patreon shout-outs. We had Kelly Watkins, Anna Stift, Kate Massey, Beth Casto, Sharon Carter,
Yeah.
Francine Martinez, Jennifer Burnham jumped out at our highest level.
She's burning it up, man.
Richard Armstrong, he's been a Patreon supporter, but jumped up to our highest level.
Wonder if he ever played with the arm. Remember the thing Armstrong?
Stretch Armstrong?
Yeah.
I loved Stretch Armstrong.
How cool would it have been to have been playing with a Stretch Armstrong named Armstrong?
I used to like to cut mine open and look at the goo inside.
I did too, man. Only when I was done with it, like, okay, I can do it. I can't remember what color it was, though, on the inside.
I thought it was green.
I was going to say green, too.
I was thinking it was green.
Yeah.
Or blue. I can't remember.
Modern day slime.
Yeah. But I don't think it was good for you.
No.
I don't think it was something you were supposed to play with. So we had Sarah Bell, Stephanie Forrest, Tracy Dawes, Jamie DeLoe, Shelby Trotz, Ellen Haynes Chaponis.
Yeah, that's a good one.
She jumped out at our highest level.
Thank you.
Sue Kelly jumped out at our highest level.
Well, thank you, Sue. Kelly Sue.
Carrie McGarry.
Yeah, I like that. That should be on a shirt.
You just like it because it rhymes. I know that.
Should be on a shirt. Sounds like a good pub name.
Carrie McGarry.
Let's go down to Carrie McGarry's, yeah.
Ingvild Henriksen.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but we got it.
Marlene Simon.
Yep.
Lisa.
Just Lisa. You know you're good when you just name yourself your first name only.
Yep. And then we had a couple of new supporters that we actually met at CrimeCon. We had Glenn Capp.
Yay, Glenn. Thank you so much.
Hung out with Glenn and her husband, Dan, I think his name was.
Yeah, cool couple.
Yep. Very cool. And then Allison Thompson jumped out at her highest level.
Allison's cool too.
Which kind of amazed me because she bought us dinner. She bought drinks for our meetup.
Yeah, she did.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Allison.
She's a fun gal.
And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Belky Garrido.
Hey, Belky.
Belky's been with us a long time. Appreciate the long time support. And we appreciate the new support. We appreciate our social media followers, all of that. And then we had some PayPal support as well. So I want to give shout outs to Leslie Howitt, Kate Massey,
Awesome.
Dan Sharber, and Marinan Triana.
Thank you all so very much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So we talked about CrimeCon a little bit. It was a blast.
It was, man.
We got to meet a lot of cool people.
We did.
Glenn and Allison included, but also Kara, who we'd never met before.
Kara was really cool. Awesome to get to know her.
And then we got to see a lot of people that we had seen before. Christine and her husband.
Yeah.
And Nancy Ann and her husband. There was just so many people. And I know I'll leave out names, so I don't want to say too many names. But one special shout out I want to give is to Milena Slater.
Absolutely.
Milena helped kind of set our meetup, which I thought was awesome. And then she actually recorded some of it through Facebook Live and put it out on our True Crime All Time group page. So that was awesome.
Yeah, she did a great job.
And we got to meet Annie Fertner.
We did.
Which we've been wanting to do for a long time.
Just took a while, Annie.
Yeah, it was like at the 11th hour on Sunday.
Yeah.
But Annie was our very first Patreon supporter, and we really wanted to get a chance to meet her, and she had her husband with her, so that was really cool. Got to give a big shout out to Travis Gens.
Trav, man.
Because on the True Crime All the Time episode, at the very end, Gibbs, last week when we were doing voicemails, I was talking about these Harley-Davidson poker chips that every Harley-Davidson dealer has, and I was saying, hey, they're cool, I like them. You know, if you're from across the country or especially in other countries, you know, stop get one. They're $1.99.
Yeah.
Mail it to me, and I'll send you something back cool in return.
So, like, because you have a lot of listeners, we have a lot of listeners in Sweden.
Sure.
So I'm thinking you might get one from Sweden.
I don't know if...
So if they're $1.99 in Sweden, what's it going to cost them? Like $40 to ship it to you?
No, because that's the beauty. You can put it in an envelope.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's so small,
Yeah.
and you just get an international stamp. It doesn't cost... It's not like
cool.
shipping a package.
Okay, well that's cool. So I can see some Scandinavian Harley chips coming your way.
Yep, I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it from all over. But Travis must have put it together that night because he had a collection, and he sent me a whole bag of them.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. So I got to get something out to Travis.
It's an easy. I didn't realize how easy it is to get it. You just walk in to the cashier and ask for the poker chip.
Yeah, you and I went into downtown Nashville.
Yeah.
Went in. I got one from there when we were at CrimeCon.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how fast it was.
Special shout out to Lindsay Sklerick.
Absolutely. She put this together.
And it's much appreciated. The writing and the research really, really helps us, especially now when we had CrimeCon. We're coming back. It's a big lift for us. Now, True Crime All the Time episode is out right now on the Briley Brothers.
Man, that's a good one.
It's a good case out of Richmond, Virginia. Probably one of their most notorious, infamous cases that they've ever had there.
Yeah, it was good. Disturbed, but good.
Yeah, because we're talking about 3 brothers making the decision to go on a crime spree. And, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a lot of stuff that happens even after they're caught, escapes and this and that. I just thought it was a very interesting episode.
Yeah.
I think people will like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you ready to get into this episode of Unsolved?
I am. Let's do it.
So we are talking about the murder of Robert Wone. And Robert Wone was born June 1st, 1974 in Manhattan. He was raised in Brooklyn, New York. He graduated very, very high in his class in high school. And he went on to attend the College of William and Mary through a scholarship. So you know that this guy was highly intelligent, highly driven. While he was in college, he met Joseph Price after becoming active in the student government. And Joseph Price is important to the story. He's going to come up later on. But Robert was into a lot of stuff in college. He was in a fraternity. He was in multiple different honor societies. He helped restart this club called the 13 Club. And this was basically a club for people that went around campus doing anonymous good deeds. I mean, what better club could you be a part of than that?
Sounds like a club for me.
Well, sure, you would be the president.
International president.
International president. I mean, that's what your business card says anyway.
Yeah. Well, I knew you were an international president of something too, so.
I'm an international man of mystery. That's totally different.
Oh, I thought it was the hair club.
Well, I'm not just a client.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not even a client. At this point, there's nothing can save me. If there's a product out there that can save me now, Gibbs, it would make trillions.
Yeah. I think there one might be coming.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll save me, but we might have a sponsor coming up here shortly that that dabbles in that. But you got to get a sense of Robert Wone. This is an unbelievably good guy. He graduated college in 1996, and he received a very prestigious award. It was called the Algernon Sidney Sullivan Award, and it was presented to a student excelling in characteristics of heart, mind, and helpfulness to others. So just can't stress enough, this was, by everything you read, an unbelievably good person. Now, after graduating, he attended the University of Pennsylvania Law School, graduated from there cum laude in 1999. He passed the bar exam, and then he clerked for a federal judge in the Eastern District of Virginia for about a year before joining Covington and Burling law firm in Washington, D.C. So not only is this a great guy, this is a guy that is really moving upwards in his career, a very professional career. Now, in 2002, he met his wife, Catherine Ellen Yu, at a conference in Philadelphia. They married a year later, and the judge that Robert Wone had clerked for, this is a man by the name of Judge Jackson, actually officiated the wedding. So one thing we need to mention, Robert Wone was of Chinese heritage. He was very active in community organizations because he was very proud of his Chinese heritage. He was a board member of the Asian Pacific American Bar Association Educational Fund. He was a chair of the William and Mary Washington Council, member of the Virginia Governor's Commission on Community and National Service. I mean, this guy was just all over the place.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
He was giving his time for things that he felt very strongly about. There's no doubt about that. At the time of his death, he was also serving as general counsel for Radio Free Asia. So we mentioned Joseph Price, and Robert Wone and Joseph Price remained close friends. Price attended Wone's wedding with his partner, Victor Zaborsky. That same year, Price and Zaborsky met a man by the name of Dylan Ward, and they would start, I guess you would call it like a three-way relationship.
Like a love triangle, but acceptable?
Yeah. Not one that was not known to all parties, right? This is well known to all three parties involved.
Consensual.
What was it?
Consensual?
Yeah, consensual.
Yeah. Do you think I messed up?
I don't know. We'll let the listeners decide on the first one.
Okay.
The second one, you nailed it.
I nailed it.
I had to pause a little bit for the first one.
I think I got them both right.
The beauty is this is preserved for all time.
Yeah, this is true.
So people can weigh in. But the three started to refer to themselves as a throuple, like a threesome couple. Throuple. I've never heard of that.
That's, but you know what? We're going to start using it more often.
We are? Do you have something? Do you know something that I don't know, Gibbs?
I'm just going to say.
Because when you say we're going to start using it, I'm happily married.
No.
I can't be in a throuple at this point in time.
I just mean in our podcast arena that maybe it'll come up again that we could use that
I
word.
got you. So if there is a three-way relationship of this nature, we'll use the word throuple again.
Yeah.
Okay. You
sounds like a throuple to me.
Yeah, you scared me there for a minute, but
yeah,
I got
I'm not
you.
out there throupling around.
Don't be throupling.
Yeah.
In 2004, the three hosted a 30th birthday party for Robert Wone. And then the year after that, the three, Price, Zaborsky, and Dylan Ward.
Sounds like a law firm, by the way.
It does sound like a law firm. Law form.
Yeah, easy for you to say.
Law firm.
Yeah.
I definitely said that one wrong. They moved into a $1.2 million three-story townhouse on Swan Street.
Oh, nice.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
Now, the building had a basement unit that they rented out to a woman by the name of Sarah Morgan. So this essentially put 4 people living in the townhouse.
Well, everybody got a floor?
Yeah, essentially there's 4 floors,
Basically,
one for everyone.
Yeah.
A few days before August 2nd, 2006, Robert Wone decided that he wanted to stay late to meet the night shift employees at Radio Free Asia. And he told his wife this ahead of time. And they both decided that it would probably be best for him to find someone to stay with in D.C. so that he didn't have to drive home so late at night, because he had to get up again early the next morning and come back to D.C. anyway. They had a pretty long commute. They commuted together, Robert and his wife, from Oakton, Virginia. And it took them about an hour each way, which is the perfect length of time for a podcast.
Exactly. Exactly what I was thinking.
You can get 2 podcasts in a day.
Yeah. I don't think that's uncommon in that area. When you're working in D.C. to have an hour or longer commute anyway. It's very difficult to live within DC, so.
Yeah, I think most people live, outside and commute in.
I mean, I just buy a place on K Street,
Well, because you got that kind of swag.
No, I just squat in one and just call it my.
Oh, you just be a squatter.
I just be a squatter.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a little cheaper.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do you mean? I've always been here.
Now you have to kick me out.
Now you have to kick me out.
So he's trying to find somebody to stay with that night, reached out to a female friend first, and she couldn't do it. So then he reached out to his friend Joseph Price, and he agreed to let Robert stay the night. And Robert told Joseph that he'd be there around 11 p.m. that evening. And he told his wife his plans, right? Which is something we as married men know that we have to do.
Sure.
We have to keep our wives informed.
Up to date.
Of our whereabouts.
Or just wear that tracking device.
Or, yeah. Now, my whereabouts are not usually that tough because I'm usually on the couch or in the basement.
Yeah, you're either down here or you're up one level more
right.
in front of your Xbox, PlayStation thing.
PlayStation.
Yeah.
Don't lump me in with that Xbox crowd.
Don't box you in like that.
I'm a PlayStation guy.
Yeah. You think outside the box, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it is important to talk about the fact that his wife is very aware of his plans. So on August 2nd, Robert and his wife, they drive into D.C. together, as they usually did. They kiss goodbye and they parted ways. He would call his wife later that night around 9:30 and say that he just got out of class and he was going to meet the night staff of Radio Free Asia. And it would be confirmed that he was at this class and that he did meet with the night staff and that after that he called Price to let him know that he was on his way. This was around 10:24 p.m. Zaborski would later remember the call and the timing of the call because he said he was watching Project Runway. And he also said that when Robert arrived, it was around 10:30, 10:40 p.m. But Zaborski said that he went to bed. So it was Joseph Price and Dylan Ward that sat with Robert Wone when he arrived. They sat in the kitchen. They drank glasses of water. They chatted a bit. But then they all went to bed, right? It's pretty late. Everybody's got to get up in the morning.
It's a little Project Runway, which I know you used to watch. And then
I've never seen it.
Out there and had some beverages and then called it a night.
Yeah, so they called it a night. Zaborski would later claim that Price came in, watched the end of Project Runway with him, which would have meant that he was in bed before 11, right? So if the program went from 10 to 11, he had to have come in at around 10:50. Dylan Ward said that he took a sleeping pill, heard Robert Wone taking a shower down the hall, started reading a book, and then Dylan fell asleep. So we're laying all of this out as to what these people did that night. Joseph Price would say that after Project Runway, he watched about 5 to 10 minutes of something else, but Zaborski wanted to go to sleep, so they shut the TV off. At some point later, they hear their alarm system make that noise that you hear when somebody opens the door. And they assumed that it was their basement tenant, Sarah, coming home that night, even though they didn't think she was out. But they dismissed it. It was probably something that happened pretty regularly. But sometime between 11 p.m. and 11:35, the next door neighbor, a man by the name of William Thomas, heard a scream that he described as a scream of desperation coming from the building of Joseph Price. And he times this because he says his wife was watching the news and a certain reporter was on, and that reporter always kind of had the same time slot. So that's how he is estimating the time of the scream.
Yeah, so he could associate all that with that reporter's segment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you watch the news every night and the reporter comes on at pretty much the same time, that's what he's saying. At 11:49 p.m., Zaborski calls 911. saying that they think somebody has gotten into their house and that a guest has been stabbed and there's blood everywhere. So I think we need to play this call, Gibbs, because it's important in this case.
DC Emergency 911 operator 6752. Do you need police, fire, or ambulance?
Immediately. We need an ambulance.
What's wrong, ma'am?
We had someone that was in our house, evidently, and they stabbed somebody.
Okay, somebody's inside the house now?
I don't know. We heard.
Are they bleeding? You see someone bleeding?
Someone is bleeding in our house.
Okay, where's they bleeding from?
I think in the stomach.
In the stomach? Is he cautious? Calm down for me. I'm going to send some help, okay? Female or male?
It's a male. He's a friend of ours. He was spending the night with us.
Okay, and who was the person that stabbed him? Do you know? Is he conscious?
We need an ambulance.
Ma'am, listen to me.
He's not conscious.
He's not conscious at all?
No. We need someone right now.
Is he breathing? Listen to me. Calm down. I'm going to help you, okay? Is he breathing?
I'm upstairs, and he's downstairs. I don't know.
Okay, who's downstairs with him?
My partner is downstairs with him right now. He told me to go upstairs and call the police immediately. I just went to the stairs.
Okay, who's the person? Okay, I'm sending paramedics and the police. Okay, who's the person that stabbed him?
I don't know. We think it's somebody with an intruder in the house. We heard the chime at the door.
And it's 15, ma'am, calm down. 1509 Swan Street, Northwest. Am I correct?
Yes, it is.
The person that stabbed him, is he still in the home?
I don't know.
We got help en route, okay?
Pardon me?
We have help en route.
Thank you. They're here.
They are en route to you now. I'm sending the police and the paramedics, okay, to assist. Okay, what I need you to do is go downstairs, okay? The place wherever he was stabbed at, I need you to get a dry cloth, okay? And just apply pressure to that area. If he was wherever he was stabbed at on his body, I need you to take a towel downstairs while you're waiting for the paramedics to arrive and just apply pressure. Even if the rag or towel is saturated with blood, just get another towel and put it on top, but never lift the first towel off the area. Hold it on. Once it gets filled up with blood, just put another towel on top of that and just apply pressure until the paramedics arrive.
Pressure until the
Yes.
on the leg.
Yeah.
With stab in the heart.
In the heart?
Yes. In the center of his chest.
Okay. Is he breathing?
Is he breathing?
We have help en route now, okay? You don't know who it was?
No idea. So don't touch this. Like,
okay, is he breathing?
he's breathing, but he needs help now.
Okay, we have help en route, ma'am, okay? We do have help en route. Okay, just go down there and try to tell your husband or your the other half to just try to keep him calm and talk to him, okay? Keep him calm and talk to him until someone gets there. Okay. And at the same time, get a dry cloth and just hold it right there in the area.
My partner's holding the holding it on him.
Okay, and once it gets saturated with blood, tell him get another one. Go get another towel so you can apply it on top of that one once it gets filled up with blood. And we need you to apply pressure on that area.
He is applying pressure right now.
Okay, just hold it there until the paramedics get there. They should be pulling up any moment if they're already en route to your location. You don't know who did this.
We have no idea who did this.
Is the door open so they can get in?
We don't know how they got in.
Okay, well, I'm asking you now, is the door open so the paramedics can get in once they get here?
What? Sorry. What were you saying?
Is the door open so they can get in? Is the door open so the paramedics can get in the home?
I'm going to go down.
Is this a private home or apartment?
It's a home.
It's a home. It's 1509 Swan Street, Northwest.
The person had one of our knives.
The person that stabbed him ran out the door with a knife?
I think so.
Okay, anybody get any type of description of the person that came in the home?
I have no idea. We have no description. We heard the chime, and we heard the scream from our friend.
Okay.
And so we came running downstairs. We ran in.
So you both was upstairs and your friend was downstairs?
Yes.
You heard the door open and then you heard the scream?
I didn't hear the door open until after the scream, and then we ran down the stairs and we heard we have an alarm, and so the chime went off.
Okay.
Is the ambulance? We really need the ambulance.
Okay, they en route. They en route now, ma'am. Go to the door. They should be pulling up any moment. Okay.
I'm afraid to go downstairs.
Okay, the person who's downstairs was the person that was assaulted.
No, we're on the second floor.
Okay, so somebody need to go downstairs and open the door for the paramedics. You're not sure if that person's still in the home or not.
I have no idea.
Okay, we have paramedics en route, okay?
What time is it?
What time is it at the moment?
Yes.
23:54. It's 11:54, ma'am.
11:54.
Yes.
I mean,
I'll stay on the line with you. I will stay on the line until somebody gets here, okay? I won't hang up.
we need them right now. I'm not hanging up, but we need help now.
Okay, they en route, ma'am. They are en route. Let me know when you hear the paramedics. Can you look out the window and see if you hear them coming?
I'm looking out the window and I see nothing. I see nobody.
Okay, it seems like forever, but they are en route, ma'am. They're coming.
Here they are. Here they are.
They're there.
I'm going downstairs.
Okay. I'll stay on the line with you till you open the door for the paramedics, okay?
Help us. We have someone was stabbed. They're on our second floor. What is this? What is this?
Ma'am?
No, it's really an emergency. I mean, maybe. Please hurry.
Ma'am, it's going to be okay.
So I think, Gibbs, anytime there is a 911 call, we like to play it. I mean, it's real. It gives you a sense of what was really happening in that moment. And you know the call is always going to be dissected later on.
Oh, absolutely. That's a given.
So when paramedics arrived at the home, it was around 11:54 p.m. Zaborski is waiting on the front steps in a white bathrobe. He's still on the 911 call that you just heard. And he was afraid. He mentioned that on the call. He didn't want to go downstairs until he saw the lights from the police and the paramedics. As the paramedics are going up to the second floor, they bump into Dylan Ward. Ward apparently is also in a white bathrobe, and he points down the hall, doesn't say anything, and then he goes back into his room. The paramedic enters the guest bedroom. He finds Robert Wone on a fold-out bed. He's lying on his back, head on a pillow, and his body is slightly at an angle on the bed. And Robert was lying on top of the sheets and the comforter. So it was almost, Gibbs, as if he hadn't gotten into bed. He's lying on top of a recently made bed. The pillow was said to have had an indentation from where his head was on it. And there would be speculation later that, it looked like maybe this was staged, like Robert was laid on the pillow after death. So Robert Wone was wearing a t-shirt and shorts that his wife would say that he would wear to bed normally. And he had his anti-teeth grinding mouth guard in his mouth that he also wore to bed. So he was getting ready to go to bed. The paramedics encounter Joseph Price. He's sitting on the bed in his underwear. The paramedic asks him what's going on. Price says that he heard a scream. And as he's telling the paramedic this, he gets up and moves out of the way. The paramedic examines Robert Wone's body, finds 3 stab wounds in his abdomen, and he does determine that he's deceased. What's noted is that there's very little blood, described as a small film of blood on the actual wounds. Some people thought that this meant that it had either been wiped or cleaned, or that someone had held something against his abdomen as he was stabbed. The t-shirt that Robert Wone had on had 3 matching holes where the wounds were, but there was no blood on the shirt. So they place him on a stretcher, they remove him from the house, and while this is going on, Price is downstairs telling the first police officer on the scene that they found Robert at the patio door and took him upstairs and laid him on the bed. Now, one thing that the paramedic would come out and say is that the 3 men in the house all looked freshly showered. They acted very calmly, way more calm than many people do that he normally encounters in a similar situation. At the foot of the bed, they find Robert's personal items on a table. There are 2 wallets with cash. And apparently Robert always carried a second wallet in case he was mugged, because there are a lot of muggings in D.C.
Yeah, so you get the one that
the fake wallet.
The fake wallet just has a few things in it.
Right.
They think they got it.
His BlackBerry, another cell phone, his watch, and his night guard case. Some towels were found folded on the back of a chair. And Robert's wife would say that this was not unusual for him. He was very particular about hanging up towels after showering. But on the nightstand, they find a knife with Robert's blood on it. And this knife is from the downstairs kitchen, and it had a black handle. Near Robert's overnight bag, they also find a towel with blood on it. Besides that, the room is relatively undisturbed. They don't see any signs of a struggle or a fight. So the police look through Robert Wone's BlackBerry and they find 2 drafted emails. One to his wife at 11:05 p.m. that said he had just showered and was getting ready for bed. The second was at 11:07 and was confirming a work lunch for the next day.
So I think it's interesting that they say what time those drafts were crafted, but you know, I mean, they're just drafts. I mean, all you do is open up a message and touch it, and it will correct the time. So who knows exactly when he did it and who did it?
No, I think that's important. But adding on to that, police did not send the BlackBerry in for fingerprinting, and they gave it back to Radio Free Asia because that's where, that's who it was from, right? It was Robert's BlackBerry, but given to him by, this company. And once the company got it back, they wiped the phone, reset it, and they gave it to a different employee. So basically any evidence on it was gone at that point. Just after midnight, more police arrived. The home is full of police investigating this crime scene. They didn't see any sign of forced entry. The house was full of expensive electronics. Nothing had been taken. So they're probably ruling out burglary as a motive pretty quickly. They brought in cadaver dogs that hit on a few areas. They indicated that blood had been in the rear stairwell drain and the lint filter of the clothes dryer. So these are places that the dogs hit on. They found that the backyard hose was uncoiled and the drain cover was ajar. They also had some drug dogs that they brought in that alerted on a couple of locations where the police find ecstasy. Then they start searching through some of the other bedrooms, and they search Dylan Ward's bedroom, and police find a variety of sex toys and different types of objects. One was described as a milking machine. I think we can all kind of figure out what that might be for. Gibbs probably knows better than anyone.
Well, because you just told me what you use it for.
From having your own milking machine.
No, you know why.
I know why you have it, but...
I mean, you know...
But they also found a lot of stuff related to BDSM. There were books, and in the books, a lot of places were highlighted. They also found a 3-knife set in his bedroom that was missing 1 knife. Now, of course, all 3 are talking to police. And Price tells police that he and Zaborski woke up from hearing the door chime on their alarm system. And they believed they left the back door unlocked and that an intruder had come in through this back door and committed the murder. They both claimed that they heard 3 grunts or, slow scream type sounds. They went downstairs to see what happened at around 11:30 p.m. And this is when they found Robert Wone's body lying there with the knife in his chest. Zaborski said that he screamed when he saw Robert, and that's what woke up Ward and prompted him to come out of his room. And this is when Price told Zaborski to call 911. But Price admits moving the knife, which he would say would explain why his fingerprints would be on it. But then he applied pressure to the wounds with a towel, as 911 instructed. But when Ward starts speaking to investigators, apparently Price shot him a look, and Ward decided that he wasn't going to speak up. Now, what he was going to say, we don't really know. Police separated all 3 and took them to police headquarters. The police confirmed that the back door was unlocked when they got there, but the backyard gate was locked. And they didn't find any fingerprints at all on the knife. They didn't even find Joseph Price's fingerprints. So they start interrogating the 3 men, and police described Joseph Price as being arrogant, flippant, aggressive at times, while Zaborski was described as passive and basically unwilling to help detectives. And police are using a variety of tactics during the interrogations. They're asking, a lot of questions. They're making accusations. They're using that tactic, Gibbs, where they tell each of the suspects that the others have ratted on them.
They've turned on you.
Yep.
What are you going to do?
They've already sold you down the river.
You can still save yourself. Tell me. Kind of like, not that we haven't used that on our kids before.
Oh, all the time. But all 3 of them hold to their stories that an unknown intruder must have come into the house and killed Robert. Price shares a little bit of information about something that happened earlier that night where the grill caught on fire. All 3 tell police that they shared a bottle of wine over dinner. All 3 would provide DNA, fingerprints, hair samples, but they would refuse to be questioned further without their lawyers present after this initial interrogation. Robert Wone was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. The autopsy would conclude that there were 3 stab wounds that penetrated his right lung, heart, and his abdomen, and that this was the cause of death. The wounds were described as being about 4 to 5 inches deep and were all on the right side of Robert's body. There were no defensive wounds that would have indicated any sign of a struggle, and they believed that he lived for at least a minute after the first stab wound and possibly longer. There were some broken capillaries in his eyes, which meant that he probably was struggling to breathe at some point. There was a lot of internal bleeding, but as we mentioned, there was not a lot of blood on his body externally. But one thing that was very interesting was that they found needle puncture wounds on his right ankle, his left neck, chest, hand, and inside of his left elbow. And they found that these needle marks didn't match medical needles that maybe would have been used to revive him. But there were no drugs found in his system. But it was said that they didn't do a full drug screen and test for all possible drugs. They did some type of limited screen. They did find semen around his anus and genitals, but DNA tests would confirm that it was his own semen. The knife found had been wiped, and they found white cotton threads from a towel on it. There was no dotted blood smear pattern found that would be expected from being stabbed through a shirt. and there were no T-shirt fibers found in the blood or on the knife. So this is all leading Gibbs to questions, right, of how this could have happened. Did it happen the way that it was theorized by the people in the house?
Yeah, because right now forensics is saying it's not matching up.
There was no blood found on the cutting edge of the knife, but there was blood found on the blade as high as 5.5 inches up. They found 2 spots of blood on the bed, but they thought that this was consistent with the paramedics moving Robert's body to the stretcher. Now, when they examined the towel, the blood pattern they felt was not consistent with being used to apply pressure to a wound, but instead they thought it looked as though it was used to actually put blood on the knife. But all 3 people in the house had denied wiping the knife. After being released, Price and Zaborski are picked up by a friend. After this, they met with the basement tenant and they waited until Ward was released by police. This friend that picked up Price and Zaborski told police that while he was in the car, Price claims he pulled the knife out of his friend Robert. And while they were meeting with the basement tenant, another witness would claim that they overheard Price say this again. So this is 2 different people that are telling the same story. The police spent 3 weeks examining and investigating the townhouse. They removed a lot of items. They removed flooring, pieces of wall, chunks of the staircase. They even took out the washing machine and the drain catches. They took a lot of stuff out of this house to examine.
It always amazes me what they can do. You know, they come in and just like take chunks of things out just to take it back to see what they can find.
Imagine what it looks like after they've taken all that stuff out.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then you wonder, you know, on a bigger scene, you know, where more individuals were hurt, you know, not hurt, but murdered. What it must be like, you know, these crews coming in, you know, removing this stuff. And they have to be extremely careful too, right? I mean, you just can't send some construction guys in with some sawzalls and take this stuff out. I mean, these are trained forensics, you know, guys going in or gals doing this stuff.
I would imagine they'd have to be pretty precise.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I would wonder is, okay, a crime has occurred at my home. I didn't do it. Who's going to pay to put all this stuff back together?
That's true.
Not them.
I guess your insurance.
Yeah, that would be, you know, that police are not going to pay to have your house fixed.
No.
You're going to have to figure that out on your own.
Well, you know, I remember, you know, we had a guy I worked with that did terrible thing, right? He murdered his girlfriend, and the house that it was in was a buddy of mine's house, right? That they rented. And when it was all said and done, when investigators were completed, you know, he had to spend money. He had to call a criminal cleanup crew that went in and took care of all that stuff out of his own pocket. I'm assuming he had turned it into his insurance, but it was on him.
Yeah, that would be rough. Now, on August 4th, Price, Zaborski, and Ward, they travel to Oakton and share all they know with Robert's wife, Kathy. On August 5th, the police interview Kathy, and she asks her friend, who's a lawyer, to sit with her during this interview. The very next day, Joseph Price calls the attorney and tries to ask what was talked about in the interview. And this didn't sit well with the attorney. The next day, he decides he's too close to the case to continue representing Kathy, and he asks his coworker to take over. Robert's funeral was held August 8th, and Kathy asks Joseph Price to be a pallbearer. It was about a week after this that police searched the cars of all 3 men. They don't find anything, but this was a pretty good amount of time to go by before searching the cars. So who knows what, if anything, could have been in there.
Yeah, it'd been plenty of time to clean it up, and I don't know if you could get it perfect, but man, you could definitely remove the bulk of issues that they could find, right? Because you can't. I don't know if you can actually hide anything from any luminol.
It's pretty tough.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are people that know how to do it, but most people, I would say, would be ill-equipped to clean a car to where a real trained forensics team could not find something.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. Within 2 weeks of the murder, police come out and publicly claim that they believe the crime scene had been tampered with. In October, a couple of months after the murder occurred, Joseph Price's brother, who apparently had a drug problem, burglarized their home on Swan Street. But then nothing happens, Gibbs, for a while, for a period of time. It's not until 2 years later that all three men are arrested, but they're not arrested for murder. They're arrested for obstruction of justice.
Trial begins tomorrow in a high-profile murder case that turned a DuPont Circle townhouse into the center of a mystery. Joseph Price, Victor Zaborsky, and Dylan Ward are charged with obstruction of justice, not murder. Investigators believe the three men who lived in the house on Swan Street know who killed their housemate Robert Wone, but they have not told investigators. Wone was stabbed 3 times. The housemates say an intruder killed them.
So we've done a lot of unsolved cases.
We have.
We've done a number of cases where people have been charged and then later exonerated, making the case still unsolved. We've never done a case where people have been charged with obstruction of justice in a murder case. And I think it adds an interesting element to this case. Now, Kathy Wan would file a $20 million wrongful death lawsuit against all three. But you heard in that clip, police believed that Price, Zaborsky, and Ward knew something that they weren't telling. They thought they knew who had killed Robert Wone, but weren't helping in the investigation. And that's why they had charged him with obstruction of justice. Now, all three invoked their Fifth Amendment right. They didn't testify in their trials.
This is a murder case, but it's not a murder trial. The gentlemen on trial are charged with conspiracy to obstruct justice and conspiracy to tamper with evidence.
And this will not be heard by a jury as well.
That's also a pretty bold move that the defense has made in this case. I think because of the amount of pretrial publicity in this case, much of it which contains misinformation, rather, put out by the U.S. Attorney's Office early in the case, I think the defense attorneys felt like they couldn't find a jury in D.C. that hadn't already made up their minds in a case like this.
Is this unusual to see the holdout for this long? They simply have not told investigators if they know anything more.
Well, I think they have fully cooperated. In fact, all three of the defendants in this case were interviewed for hours upon hours separately the night of the incident. Now, while the three of them are housemates together, they were not housemates with Robert Wone. But Robert Wone was a longtime friend of Mr. Price and was friends with all three of the housemates. There really is no motive that they would have either to kill Mr. Wone or to cover up if someone else did it. They've said right from the start that it was an intruder that did this. Almost 4 years after the fact, the question everyone's asking is who murdered Robert Wone? Unfortunately, in this case, I don't believe that question is going to be answered. The government does not have probable cause to charge either of these three defendants or anyone else with the murder of Robert Wone. So in a rather bold move for the U.S. Attorney's Office, they've brought these conspiracy charges.
So I like that clip, Gibbs, because he does a really good job of kind of laying it out. They don't have enough evidence to charge any of the three with murder. So they're bringing these conspiracy, obstruction of justice charges against them. The other thing that he said in there that this was not going to be a trial by jury. This was just a judge trial or a bench trial.
Right, a bench trial.
So we mentioned that the three were not going to testify. During the trial, prosecutors alleged that Robert Wone had been injected with a paralytic, sexually assaulted with the milking machine, and then smothered and stabbed. Hence why we had to talk about the milking machine a little bit.
It explains why they found semen on his genitals and in and around his anus. Yes.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to say the word anus for some reason.
Well, I don't know. I have problems with certain words. I don't know why.
But, it was such a strange part of the autopsy to find that evidence. Now, there are some other things that could have occurred that night that maybe could have explained it, but the prosecution is using this to explain it. Now, they completely dismissed the intruder theory by basically saying that no intruder could or would have scaled the locked security fence, just happened to come across the back door, which was unlocked, walk past all the expensive items, go up the stairs, pass Dylan Ward's room, enter Robert's room, murder him, clean up, and then leave. And somebody would have had to have done all of this in the time frame that was built, right, by all the witnesses and the time stamp. And that's why we went through all of that, right? The timing, and this person knew because they were watching the news and Project Runway and all of that stuff. The prosecution also claimed that the knife that was found was not the knife used in the murder, and that someone may have washed themselves off outside, then put wet clothes in the dryer, and this is what caused the dogs to hit on both of those spots.
That all makes sense to me.
There is a lot of things that are making sense. Now we get into the BlackBerry, and you touched upon this a little bit. The prosecutors claim that the two drafts that were found on the BlackBerry were typed at a time that they believed Robert Wone to have been dead. So they're essentially saying that whoever killed Robert made these two drafts. But the defense would argue that this was evidence of a quick murder, one that was not drawn out with sexual assault. Somebody got in, stabbed Robert, and left. But I do want to stop a minute and talk about that, Gibbs, because Robert didn't live there. He was staying there for the night.
Right.
How many people would have known that?
Yeah, I mean, it's random.
It's very random. Why was he killed? Nobody else in the house was killed. You know, there are some very strange aspects to this case. There's no doubt about it. And you go back to some of the statements that Joseph Price made, you know, if they found Robert's body by the patio door, why take it upstairs and lay it on the bed?
Yeah, why do that? Why not just leave it where you found it?
And call 911 and let them investigate from there. That part, it was really troubling to me.
For me, that's a huge flashing
red flag.
Yeah. And if you truly don't have any involvement in anything, you just step back and walk away and let the police come and take care of it.
Well, we're going to be left with questions at the end of this. We know that.
Yeah. That's why it's unsolved.
But ultimately, the judge finds the three defendants not guilty. And at the end of the trial, explained her ruling, her not guilty ruling, for over an hour, saying that she personally believes the men know who killed Robert Wone, and they are hiding that fact from police. But there's not enough physical evidence to actually convict them of anything.
We respect and accept the judge's verdict. I think everybody who was involved in this case, from the terrific homicide detectives of the Metropolitan Police Department, the MPD evidence technicians, the patrol officers who testified, everybody knew that this was a challenging investigation and prosecution. Our hearts go out to Robert's family, Bill and Amy Wone, his parents, and Kathy Wone, his wife. I know they had hoped for justice, but I think we all understand and accept the judge's verdict. It was thoughtful, it was well-reasoned, and, we can only hope that further evidence continues to come to light that will allow us to move forward in the homicide investigation, which will remain open, and we will remain hard at work and committed to trying to bring justice to the family of Robert Wone for whoever it was that killed Robert.
So he seemed to take the verdict pretty well.
Really well, actually.
Yeah, almost
kind of complimentary to the judge and everything.
Surprisingly well. But it may have been because, going in, they probably knew it was a long shot. But the one thing that he does say is they're not going to give up on trying to solve the murder. And I do believe, Gibbs, this is one that eventually the true facts are going to come out. I do believe that because there's a number of people that may possibly know what happened. And sometimes that's the more people you have involved, something's going to come out.
Yeah. Maybe something will shake loose.
Now, since Robert's murder, many organizations have established scholarships and memorials in his name. And on October 22nd, 2011, family and friends gathered at Barksdale Field at the College of William and Mary to dedicate 2 benches and 2 Chinese trees in Robert's memory. The plaques on the benches read, "Rest a while and enjoy the wonderful world around you." And this was a reference to one of Robert's favorite songs by Louis Armstrong, "It's a Wonderful World." So I don't know, Gibbs. It's another head scratcher.
It is. It really is.
It's one of those cases where you just wish you had the inside info.
Right.
You really wish you knew what went down that night because there's so many strange aspects to the things that these 3 individuals did that night.
Right.
It just makes it seem as if there's more to it. And we know there's more to it. We just
definitely
don't
more
know,
to it, right.
We just don't know what it is.
But they're not going to say. They're not going to let anybody know.
Right.
So.
And maybe they had something to do with it. Maybe they didn't have anything to do with the actual murders. But maybe they know who did.
Right.
And they're protecting somebody else. There's just really no way to know. All right, we got some voicemails. You want to do those?
Yeah, let's hear some voicemails.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Rebecca from New York City, the center of the universe. Oh, my God, you guys. I recently discovered your podcast, and I have to say that I love your presentation of the facts, and it's so well-balanced with humor and sensitivity, and it's really so hard to pull off, and you guys have nailed it. So I was working my way backwards, and then I started from the beginning, and I have to say that at first, Mike, your presentation was a little dry, but once you settled into your groove, it became really much more enjoyable. And bringing Gibby in as a co-host was brilliant, especially as he became more comfortable in his role and his personality came out more. I have to say the 2 things that made me laugh out loud, I was going nuts, was episode 49, Robert Blake, when you're talking about the forklift in the nose, and episode 63 about John Norman College and the riff about frolicking. It was hysterical. And I finally got through every episode, and I was really depressed because you weren't there anymore except once a week. So I'd been avoiding Unsolved because I really like closure on cases, but in desperation I turned to Unsolved, and I'm loving it also. So I can have a new podcast to binge on, and I just wanted to thank you guys for so much entertainment and insight, and stay safe and keep your own time ticking. Take care. Bye.
All right. Love that voicemail. And I think she hit it on the head. With the way that we did it, Gibbs, we were not professional broadcasters. We're still not in any form or fashion.
Speak for yourself.
Speak for yourself. But it took us a while to figure out how we wanted to. We had the chemistry. You and I have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
But doing it in this form, in this podcast form, it takes a while to figure out how you want to do it, where you can inject some levity in what are really dark, stories. And it was probably dry at the beginning, and I think we found our groove at some point, and hopefully we continue to refine it as we go a little bit.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I liked her. Her assessment was dead on. I've gone back and listened to some of those episodes in the beginning and thought, whew,
yeah,
a little rough.
Well, thankfully, we went to the center of the universe, and she was able to.
Everybody outside of New York is like, that is not the center of the universe.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
We're having fun.
Love New York.
Hello, Mike and Gibby. This is Diana from Illinois. And actually, I just got done listening to the East Rapist Serial Killer, the episode that you guys just did. And when I heard the news, I was so excited. So I told my husband, I said, I've listened to the episode in criminology. And he listens to other podcasts as well. But so he started listening to it. And yesterday, he was outside working and building the kids a trampoline. And while he was doing that, he was listening to criminology. And so now I'm going to tell him to go over to you guys' other podcast, True Crime All the Time, so he can listen to the episode that I just listened to. So it was really exciting. And like you guys said, this is something very historic. And just the fact that we're living in that age right now where we can get some of these crimes solved through DNA. It's an amazing thing. So thank you guys so much for all the hard work that you guys put into it, and keep your time ticking. Bye-bye, guys.
That's a great voicemail from our friend up in Illinois.
No, she's in the state over. She's actually in Illinois.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
But it was a great voicemail, and it touched on a couple of topics, right? To go back to the previous voicemail, there are a lot of people that don't like Unsolved because they don't like they want the finality. What the East Area Rapist Golden State Killer case has done, and she just referenced it in that voicemail, it's really shown a light on the fact that, some of these cases, Gibbs, they're going to be solved.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't have been solved before.
There's some people right now scared.
They should be scared.
They're really scared.
Because I guarantee it, there are people out there that think, okay, I did some horrible things. Maybe I've spent the last 20 years of my life not doing them, being a halfway decent member of society.
Yeah.
They're going to get me. Something's going to come out, because you go back to this guy, D'Angelo, in the East Area Rapist case. He wasn't in the database. He probably felt like he was very safe. But now with so many people putting their DNA out there with all these services, they're going to figure out a way to come back around to you through your ancestors. It amazes me, and I can't wait for even more details to come out.
Absolutely.
But it gives a lot of hope to some of these unsolved cases.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Jessica. I'm calling from Nebraska. I just got done listening to episode 66, and I just wanted to call because nobody in my friend circle or, anybody near me, they don't understand why I'm so excited and why I need to talk about it, because literally all week I have been nonstop talking about it, and they're like, you need to stop. We don't care. Even my husband, he was like, you're such a nerd. You need to quit. But I know, you guys are going to understand, and, the TCAT family's going to understand why it's so freaking exciting and why it's, the best thing ever. But anyways, literally just wanted to call because I'm excited, and you guys are the only ones who are going to get it. Nobody understands why this is such a big deal. And so that's it. And I really just wanted to call, let you guys know you guys are doing a great job. I love your podcast. I literally listen to it every single day. I'm completely caught up with both podcasts, but I still go back and I listen to older episodes because I just cannot get enough of Gibby and the Fergie. All right. I just wanted to call and say hi to y'all. I hope you guys are having a great day. Bye.
So another great voicemail. And it's funny, we heard that a lot, that family, friends, coworkers, they didn't get why everybody was so excited about this. And I can see why, if they're not into true crime, maybe they're not excited into that. But what they should be excited in is how we just talked about it, the advancement in DNA that this all made it happen.
Right.
That's what they should be excited about, is the future of catching people that normally would have got away with stuff. So that's the level that outside of your little true crime world should be excited about.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that's into true crime was, very excited. Just like, I mean, you heard it in that voicemail. We've heard from a lot of people. It was an exciting, historic moment when this guy was arrested. Now, I go into work and bring up the subject. Nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah. The what? East side? What?
Yeah.
East area? What?
They have no clue. You can't hold a conversation with somebody that is not interested in that type of stuff.
Right.
But in our circle, everybody's over the moon because not only that they caught this guy, that's awesome. But
Right.
like to your point, what does this mean for all of these other cases that have languished for years and years? There's a lot of renewed hope.
Yeah.
There's even some renewed hope in the Zodiac.
Going to go out there and find all those other skin tag creeps.
I don't know how many more skin taggers we got, but
yeah, they all got skin tags.
So when I mentioned the Zodiac, they are looking at, for people that don't listen to criminology, they are looking at doing something similar DNA wise in the Zodiac case. Going to one of these open sites where people willingly submit their DNA to help, find ancestors and all this stuff.
Yeah, get a link.
Yep.
Get a link.
So there's going to be a lot more of it, and I am excited about it. All right, well, that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.